evening and welcome to Atlantic Television Press Roundtable here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. It is another day when media professionals gather to look at stories that are trending in the day, in the last 24 hours, to give insights and perspective and look at the stories from various angles. Every story has different angles. And of course, help to inform, educate, and entertain you on those stories. Before we continue, let's look at some of our headlines. Tribunal dismisses PRP's certificate forgery allegation against Mba. And from Zamfara State comes a story that Voice of Nigeria journalist has been found dead in Zamfara State. Well, lawmaker offers arrest over Shagamu's secret cult killings. That's from Ogun State. And from Kanu, Kwankwaso blamed for the sack of governor by tribunal. From dear River State, police dismisses officer for killing a father of 3 in River State. Federal government has settled for low-key Independence Day celebration. These are some of the headlines. You can watch us live on our website, AtlanticTVNetwork.tv, our mobile app, ATN Live, on YouTube and Facebook, Atlantic Television Network. Joining me on the show today is no other than Bill Cosby Jones of Ikuriland, the radio chief.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Of course, you know when Bill is here, he pays our bill by making it easy for us. You're welcome to the show. Well, we'll be right back after this short break. Don't go away. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the program. It is still Atlantic Television Press Roundtable, and I still have here Bill Cosby Jones here in the studio. Now let's look at some of the stories in details. Governorship Election Tribunal sitting in Enugu State has dismissed the certificate forgery allegation against Governor Peter Mbah of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. It ruled that the claims by the People's Redemption Party candidate Elder Christopher Ago lacked merit. Ago alleged that Mbah forged his National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, and certificate. He also alleged irregularities in the election, as well as overvoting. But Justice Kudirat Murayo, a Kano-led tribunal in a judgment on Thursday, held that the petitioner could not prove allegations of fraud against the respondent. The tribunal held that there was no evidence before it to support PRS's claim that a false certificate was submitted to INEC. Big story there. Well, a lot of them are coming out of the hook. Some are getting dismissed.
But again, it shows how far we've come with our democracy, and the fact that whatever you want to do in this country, you must do the right thing. Having facts before you is not enough. You must hand over those evidence when needed and when it's necessary. The PRP case and Mbah. Remember in May, the NYSC had said the certificate Mbah has did not come from us. And Mbah sued for 20 billion naira, defamation and all of those issues. And so one would have thought that the Election Petition Tribunal would have been easier or admissible in court to say, judging from the disagreement with Mbah and NYSC, this case is a case that is open and that Mbah should have been judged by the comments of NYSC. But the court does not work like that. The court works with evidence. If you're bringing a case, you must prove beyond reasonable doubt that this thing happened, that a forgery happened. And in doing that, you bring the original of a document and the fake. PRP and its lawyers did not do that. And so the court had no other option than to dismiss the case and in favor of Mbah. But I'm glad that this had happened. It will give the government enough time, give the government time now to start thinking of how to better the lives and Enugu State, the lives of the people of Enugu State. Yeah. Court cases, still, I don't know if they're going to appeal, but this will give enough time for the government to kickstart ACE and start implementing some of these goals for Enugu State.
Well, whatever it is, it's part of the democratic process. You go to court and you exhaust the litigation procedures and processes. It simply speaks volume that we should be patient with the democratic process. If you lose an election, there is an arbiter that can look into whether you have a case or not. And that's what Nigerians must learn. Nigerians must learn to be patient. The kind of commentaries we run in our streets and talk down on judiciary and all that wouldn't take us anywhere, because even in developed countries, they have issues. Now let's look at the next story. Voice of Nigerian journalist Hamisu Danjiba, who was declared missing earlier in the week, has been found dead. Secretary of Nigerian Union of Journalists, Ibrahim Gada, disclosed this in a statement in Gusau. It is stated, unquote, Zamfara State Council of Nigerian Union of Journalists regrets to announce the death of Hamisu Danjiba, a reporter with Voice of Nigeria, whose body was found in the Sokaway behind his house 3 days after missing. Discovery of his corpse was a result of unpleasant odor observed by Ismaiah children in the evening of Wednesday, 20th September 2023, who drew the attention of their teachers. After breaking the Sokaway pit, the dead body was confirmed to be that of Dangiba by his family and some neighbors. His funeral rites have since been observed in accordance with Islamic injunction. Very sad story.
It's a very sad one.
And we don't know what killed him.
It's a very sad one. I said, when the first time when this news filtered in, I became it changed my countenance. It changed my whole system. The thing is, we cannot point directly to where this is coming from. We don't know if this stemmed from the work he was doing as a journalist or this came from somewhere else. But whatever the case is, we employ the police and law enforcement agents to spring into action and bring perpetrators to book. A journalist is a very person in a society, somebody who educates, brings news to the people, educates the general public, and the fourth estate of the realm. I hope that this is not born out of his job as a journalist. We know doing the work of a journalist does come with a lot of hazards. But let's not jump into conclusions now until the police and other law enforcement agencies concludes their investigation into this. But it's a very sad one. It's a very sad one. It's become one too many. I mean, not the killing of journalists. I mean, the death of innocent Nigerians. It's becoming very frequent nowadays. We need to cleanse the society. We need to see how we can turn a new leaf. Perpetrators of this crime walk free most of the time. And so the system looks as though it is helpless. People are not safe anymore. Law enforcement agents should up their ante and see that Nigerians are properly protected.
It's unfortunate because journalists are there as a watchdog of the people, and the people they tend to protect shouldn't be the ones that kill them. And like you said, it's we're praying that it doesn't come as a result of their job. But of course, if you look at the history of victimization or killing of journalists in Nigeria and the world at large, a large number of Nigerian journalists have lost their lives because of the hazards of the profession. And that's why NUJ most of the time talk about hazard allowance and all that. Unfortunately, journalists are one of the least paid people. And yet they become victims of all manner of criminality and intimidation and all that. They are humiliated and killed all over the place. And it's not fair. I think something has to be done to guard the dignity and integrity of journalists and indeed their right to live, their right to practice, their constitutional rights.
Yes, if you remember, that news was that he was killed right as his president.
Yes.
And dumped in a sockaway behind his house, which means, I was wondering when I was reading that story, does he not live with his family?
It depends on the manner of killing.
It depends. It depends. Maybe we don't know if he was killed outside and dumped closer to his house and all of that. But the end of it is that the law enforcement agents swing into action and make sure that they bring perpetrators of this act to book. And that's the only the justice that we need as broadcasters, as journalists, and as the people who are people who are supposed to be society watchdogs.
The sentinel. Now let's another angle to the story before we go to the next story. The fact that Nigeria has over time has been talking about insurance for journalists. And if we have appropriate, I'm not saying anybody should be killed and they paid compensation, but if it comes, what happens to those they left behind? And I think this is the time Nigeria should actually act and fulfill that intention over time. It has become part. My last 30 years in practice, it has been said over and over that we should do something about
ensuring the lives of those who bring this.
And then taking care of hazard allowances and all that.
It also calls to the immediate action for us to shore up our security apparatus.
Yes.
We have a wild, I wouldn't call that ineptitude. I think we are undermanned in this country when it comes to security. Security, yes. We are undermanned. We need to shore up our security agencies, employ more hands, and see that everyone is covered in this country.
And they should cooperate with journalists.
Exactly.
That's what I always say. When I meet security men, I say, we're doing virtually the same job. We are the sentinel, we are watchdog. You are watchdog in a kinetic manner. We are watchdog in another way.
True.
Because we hold government accountable and we represent the people. Well, operatives of the Department of State Security in Ogun State have arrested a serving member of the State House of Assembly, Damilare Bello Mohammed, for his alleged involvement in rival court clashes in Shagamu, where 8 persons were killed last week. The lawmaker, who was recently elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party to represent Shagamu constituency, was arrested alongside 5 other suspended cultists allegedly involved in the violence. The 5 other suspects, Dabo Anima Shaun, Bamidele, Sahid Ismaila Onilire, Adewale Otunsaya, and Toby O. Ade were arrested by the DSS operatives during a sting operation after a tip-off at the early hours of Thursday within the residence of the lawmaker, within his residence. A statement issued by Lekon Adeliro, the chief press secretary to the governor, Dakbo Abiodun, the DSS had since Wednesday tracked the 6 suspected cultists to the official residence of the lawmaker, where he was allegedly providing shelter to the cultists. The problem we have?
You see, we've in this country talked about supporting criminality. I mean, politicians, lawmakers, people holding key positions in government supporting criminals, supporting cultists, supporting kidnappers, using them as willing tools to cause mayhem in the society when the need arises. Now it brings us to the issue of cultism. There seems to be a surge, a rise in cult activities in the western part of Nigeria. Lagos and Ogun State primarily mentioned. But I was very happy. I was elated when I heard this news that the lawmaker was arrested. I mean, this should show that nobody is above the law. If you fall foul of the law, you should face the long arm of the law. A lawmaker associating with cultists, associating with miscreants. What was he doing harboring cultists? He has a lot of, we need to ask the right questions. When you see politicians hobnobbing with criminals, hobnobbing with miscreants, that politician should be called to question. I've heard, one of the silliest excuses I've heard, forgive my language, was when a politician told me that some of these boys, that he was trying to see how to rehabilitate them. And few months, 6 months after, your romance with them, they're still the way they were. They never changed. And I wonder what impact your rehabilitation is making. So this lawmaker should be used, if found guilty, as a scapegoat to set the record straight that nobody, no human, is above the law. And that's the only way that these miscreants can be dissuaded. That's the only way these people who break the law will know that it's a new dawn. Regardless of who your godfather is, there's no hiding place for any criminal again.
Now, the point remains clear. I think you just nailed the head on the head. And the point is that we've always talked about the political economy of cultism in Nigeria. There is this aspect of sponsorship from the high and high above, the big people,
the high and mighty,
who sponsor them, who provide political cover for them, and who give them all the resources they need to commit mayhem. We have traditional rulers who use them, to feather their nest, to get what they want, as a source of protection, rather than seeking legitimate protection from the police. We have oil companies in regions where there is oil,
who come in to use them
to protect their businesses and use them to foster or hoist their business enterprise, as it were, on the people, dividing them among themselves, choosing who to deal with and who not to deal with, rather than taking care of their corporate social responsibility.
Divide and rule.
Divide and rule and all that. That has been that's what this kind of narrative, brings to the fore. That when people say that part of what brought cultism into play was politics, political thuggery, for example, support by oil companies, support by traditional rulers. Then the social aspect, which is just very negligible, gangsterism, urban gangsterism. And then the town and gown meeting, the court groups in the university coming out of the university campuses to operate like armed robbers and even more dangerous manner. This is what this narrative is bringing to the fore. And so for you to solve any problem, you have to look at it from the origin, from the historical point of view. I like what Chief Akane wrote a story on the political economy of cultism, and he brought these things to bear and exposed some of these phenomena. And that is how we should look at cultism. Today, cultism is no longer what it used to be. It has become something else. And I like what the pronouncement from the governor of Ogun State, proclaiming death penalty for anybody involved in this kind of
in this kind of.
But let's see how the law will take its course, starting from a lawmaker.
I think it is a way to go. First off, outlawing cultism in a manner that shows intent that you want to squash corruption and violent activities in your area. That's one. If you look at the video, there was a viral video on social media showing the
court group in Ahoda?
No, Ahoda, yes. They declared wanted criminal that was suspected of killing the DPO in Ahoda. You see the kind of guns they were brandished.
The effrontery.
You know, how much do they have to buy those sophisticated weapons? So you see that an external and influential person might be involved, which is why I will follow this case, this story to the letter. I want to see how the lawmaker will be dealt with. I want to see if he's going to be giving a soft landing, because the people are watching. If you encourage criminality, it will fester, it will go on. We have come to a point where we shouldn't let this go on. It is killing our society. It is killing us as a people. It is killing us as a country. So we should start doing something differently. If the lawmaker, whether he's guilty or innocent, for harboring criminals, for seeing that it was evident that he harbored them.
And this was committed serious violence in the community.
Or killing 8 people. So if he is found, to
culpable.
be not culpable, if he is found to not be involved, and for the fact that he harbored them, there should be some penalty, all right, to show others that there's a new dawn. We are stepping into times that some of these things cannot be condoned, regardless of who you are. And then you see that the society will start knowing that if you don't act right, you will be punished.
That is it. And it is important that we look beyond what is happening now and see it from point of view of societal decay. Because from gangsterism to cultism, from cultism to terror, banditry, and then terrorism. That's how it moves. Boko Haram started as a cult group that came together to say, we do not want to have Western education any longer. That Western education is bad and all that. Before you knew what was happening, people were tearing their certificates.
True.
Before we knew what was happening, it had become a group of bandits. Then suddenly, it blossomed
into terrorism.
Full-fledged terrorism. Exactly. And then getting involved in affiliation with serious groups like Al-Qaeda, ISWAP, and all that. So I think that we have to be very careful, because that's where it starts. And there have always been, cultists have always been some kind of Frankenstein monster. You create them to win an election. You create them to guide your pipeline and your businesses. You create them to guide your throne and guard your throne. At the end of the day, they will turn around to hunt you.
Against you.
Against you. If they're not coming to you directly, they are coming against your people.
True.
So it's still a Frankenstein monster.
It is. And I think lessons learned. I don't know why we do not remember history and how, let's take, for instance, the States. Rumors were that some of the miscreant skills, the one to be precise, and some of that ones were created by some people who used them to sort for power. And then after they succeeded, of course, they can't sit idly and watch them go hungry. They had to use the gun to do something else, and that will inflict pain on the society.
They kept protecting their territory. In the case of the one you talked about, He kept protecting his territory. He kept trying to exert his influence and then to have continuous or continued patronage and dominance.
Even to going after those politicians that once used them to win, to gain power one way or the other.
And, then the oil company, there was that rivalry among them to continue to be regarded and patronized by the oil companies.
I think the IOCs have not done any better.
Yes, they are part of the people that created Don Juan.
Yes, and his likes.
And they're still creating them.
So the IOCs needs to be properly washed over, and then given the right perspective on how to operate in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. That's much we can take from this half hour of the program, Atlantic Television Press Roundtable. We've got a short break, just water break, and then we'll come back for the next segment. Don't go away. Welcome back. It is still Atlantic Television Press Roundtable here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. And Bill Cosby is still here in the studio. So stay tuned, don't go away. I'm sure you're enjoying his analysis, in-depth analysis, critical analysis. His critical rationality cannot be questioned. A chieftain of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, Alhaji Abbas Onilewura, has accused presidential candidate of the party, Rabiu Kwankwaso, of being responsible for the loss of Kano governorship slot. Yusuf Abba at the State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal. The Kano State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal had on Wednesday sacked Abba and declared the APC candidate Nasir Gwanu winner of the March 18 governorship poll. Three-man panel led by Besoluyemi Akin Asayande further withdrew the certificate of return the Independent National Electoral Commission had presented to Abba. Reacting to the judgment of Onilewura in a statement on Thursday, noted that Kwankwaso allegedly sold out MPP to the ruling All Progressive Congress in order to negotiate for a ministerial slot in the presidency with President Bola Tinubu-led government. He stressed that the former NMP flag bearers' alleged involvement in anti-party activities led to the big loss the party is facing with the declaration of the tribunal in Kano. Well, it's always like that. Whenever there's a loss, somebody will cry, somebody will rejoice. And Kwankwaso has been having issues with his party.
Running battle.
And I thought that he was so charismatic and loved with his Kwankwasian philosophy. But unfortunately, we are seeing something different.
Kwankwaso is NMPP. NMPP is Kwankwaso. Remember when he resigned the membership of the People's Democratic Party to form the NMPP, many read the writing on the wall that he wanted to contest for presidency, and he did. I remember the back and forth between he and the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi for to merge the two parties to front a presidential candidate. It never worked. So I interviewed his spokesperson for his presidential campaign, and so when I heard rumors that he was obnobbing and romancing with the All Progressive candidate, now who is the incumbent president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he said it was just camaraderie between two friends who had been friends even before now. So politics cannot bring enmity between the two of them, cannot bring quarrels, cannot bring face-off between the two. And so I was surprised when the rumor filtered out that Kwankwaso was haggling, Kwankwaso was negotiating to be a minister in Tinubu's cabinet, having contested against the incumbent president in the presidential election, that people are judged to be questionable, that people saw to be, that was rigged. That's what the accusation was. One would have thought that the NMPP and Kwankwaso would have gone to court. They chose not to. And now this is happening. When the suspension of Kwankwaso came in, I felt, I was taken aback. How can NMPP suspend Kwankwaso? Kwankwaso that's me, single-handedly formed that party, maybe with few other persons to bring. So I felt that it was above waters to be reprimanded, to be given suspension, until the back and forth between the executives, the National Working Committee, and the presidential candidate. Now this has happened, and the accusation that because of your marriage, because of your body language with the APC.
How can that be? Should that be why they lost?
No. They were saying the accusation was.
Was he the one presiding over the tribunal?
That he sold out valuable information
okay.
to the APC, which they used to prosecute their case. Okay. And so it's an allegation.
Such that some of the electoral materials were not stamped.
Were not stamped. Some of the loopholes in the defense of. And again, one of the accusations was that he fielded a candidate that was not strong enough, a candidate that was not generally accepted by other candidates at the APC Kano State. And so we've not heard the last of it. More to be unveiled. And I see that Nigerians are beginning to wake up to how democracy should be, all right? Regardless of who you are, who you think you are, and the party. If you do wrong, you can be reprimanded. You can be, you can face the consequences, and it will be brought down on you.
Okay.
I think it's a right.
All right. I think that generally we see that the Nigerians react differently when it comes to the issue of election outcomes and the issue of tribunal outcomes. I saw this jubilation in the streets of Kano. I hope that jubilation goes far. Let's take the next part of the story. Nigerian police has dismissed a police officer who shot dead Alafuro Peterside in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Peterside, 42, was shot dead last month by a police officer in the presence of his wife and children at a beer parlor in Elekaya, Port Harcourt City Local Government area of Rivers State. Commissioner of Police Emeka Wonyi revealed the development while parading criminal suspects at the command's headquarters at Moscow Road, Port Harcourt. CP Wonyi added that the officer has been arraigned in court for the sake of justice. The Commissioner of Police said, unquote, in recent times, we have witnessed some bloggers, some TikTokers, some tweeters that have in sending some malicious messages against the command. Also, in quotes, some are unsubstantiated, but I want to assure you that the ones that are substantiated will get to the root of the matter. Doesn't mean that there was a petition about this issue and the killing of an innocent man before his wife.
It's a very pathetic one. But yes. my heart gladdens with joy knowing that we have a commissioner of police who listens, who is up and doing in terms of dispensation of justice. If you, like you rightly read, that case has been charged to court and the officer dismissed from the force. And I think it will serve as deterrent. I'll give you a quick story. I was driving home after work one day, and then at a roadblock, I saw this police officer, fierce-looking police officers. They parked. They said, "Okay, park your papers," and I brought them out. They searched for this, and I gave them. And then they asked for something else, and I said, "Sorry, is it your right to request for this?" He looked at me straight in the eyes and said, "Who are you?" So I'm a journalist. I brandished my ID card and said, "Okay, go. You guys are the people who will now report also the CP." So you can see that they are very cautious of the kind of CP we have in River State. And I think that has really brought some sanity into the force, especially the command here in River State, knowing that when you do any crime as a police officer, you will face the consequences. This is a way to go. And as for the family, the loss is irreparable. It's something that cannot be returned. It's something that cannot be reversed. The police, Nigerian police force, law enforcement agencies should see how they can, reach the family and see the best they can do for the family.
Father of three.
Father of three, 42-year, caught down in his prime. Is something that really will sadden anybody, no matter who you are.
I think that extrajudicial killings, we thought it had disappeared in our system, but it's still there. But the good story is that the police is now cracking down on those who want to act beyond the limit of their powers. And that is very encouraging, because what that means is that any police officer dealing with a civilian now will be very careful.
We'll be very careful.
The trigger-happy police officers, we have to shoot their sword.
Of course. They will start. In the same way, the same report came that few police officers that harassed a TikToker and demanded for 50,000 naira were arrested. Investigation ongoing as we speak. So the police command in River State is trying, doing their best to see how they can caution fellow police officers, and then see that the code is adhered to. Which is to protect lives and property, not to intimidate and kill innocent citizens.
Now let's look at this last story. It's interesting because we're going to run a lot of commentaries on it. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, has revealed that this year's independence festivities will be notably low-key. Akume, who disclosed this to State House correspondents after meeting with Vice President Kashim Shettima, conveyed the government's readiness for the occasion, speaking about the preparations. Akume stated in these words, "Independence is a very historic event for any country, and we Nigerians are no exception. We are fully prepared for celebration." He, however, underscored that the festivities will be low-keyed in nature, a departure from the past grandeur. He extended well wishes to Nigerians and assured them that brighter days are on the horizon, adding better days are coming, and pretty soon too. When asked about the differences in this year's declaration compared to previous years, Akume emphasized the subdued nature of the event, explaining this is going to be low-key. We are not going on a fantastic jamboree at the Eagles Square. I think there's a track up on this. Sorry.
Independence Day is a very historic event in the history of any country, and we in Nigeria are no exception. We are fully prepared for celebration, but for obvious reasons, it's going to be low-keyed. But we're wishing Nigerians the best of luck, and I want to assure them that better days are coming, pretty soon too. Well, this is going to be local. We are not going on fantastic jamboree in the Eagle Square and other locations. It's a time for reflection. It's a time for all of us to think very, very deeply about us as a people and the journey forward. And this journey is being charted appropriately by the captain of the ship. Well, Labour leaders, very, very patriotic Nigerians, and we want to believe correctly that nobody would want to have a strike at this time of a history. It's not in the interest of the workers. It is not in the interest of anybody, because this government is very, very determined.
Well, it got that track up from the former governor of Benue State, right? Akume SGF. Let's have your last comment.
You know, I'm totally up there with the federal government. Low-key is something that we should be sober reflecting on all we've been through. Nigeria is the lowest ebb of global downturn, global economic downturn. We are economically not where we ought to have been, and things are not the way they ought to have been in this present administration. If you look at what's happening in Nigeria now, a lot of persons are beginning to question. If you have noticed, it seems to be subsidy through the back door coming back. Nigerians are worried. The high cost of living. There are few other things that are keeping Nigerians behind their houses not to come out and celebrate. So taking this action of not celebrating openly, jamboree, is the best way to go.
The first time in history
for the first time in the history of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So it's a good one, if you ask me. What are we celebrating, actually? What are we celebrating? The national grid has been down in the past 1 week. Down twice. The unemployment rate is over 34%, going to 40%. Are we celebrating high double-digit inflation? What are we really celebrating? You know, so I think it's a time for sober reflection. The present administration got it right this time. I totally agree with them.
Well, I think that naturally, Independence Day celebrations, fires or celebration is there to fire our patriotism, our loyalty to our nation, our hope in our country. Independence Day speeches are made, and we listen. We go to the stadium to salute the flag. We see a demonstration of our armaments, the hard and software by the army, military hardware and software, and that seems to give us hope and strength. It is something that is done, especially if you watch Soviet Union and some of these, communist countries. They use it to tell the world how strong they are.
True.
And to reaffirm faith in their country and believe in their system.
I like where you're going with this.
Yes, that is what the anniversary comes with, and we're going to miss all that.
We're going to miss it. I like the fact that you mentioned to reaffirm how strong they are. At this point, Mr. Bon, we're not strong. We need all the money we can get to buy rice for the person, the next mouth to feed, to see how we can move 1 or 2 persons out of poverty. We're divided along two lines now in Nigeria, the rich and the poor. The middle class, the cadre is becoming very thin. And so a lot of things not going right in Nigeria does not give us any happiness, any joy at all to start celebrating an independence when you know that you're going back with your empty stomach to your house that might not be well illuminated. So we should start looking for solution to these problems. Maybe next year, maybe 2 years from now, we should have leaped far from where we are now to a better place. Then we can celebrate. and live with nostalgia how we used to be, how bad it was, and how good it will be then. That's the way to go.
Well, the way it is, well, I think it is what it is, and quite seriously too, that Nigeria is beginning to think they want to be sober and somber with what is prevailing in the polity with respect to our economic downturn. And then the insecurity, people losing their lives here and there. And I think that if we carry on with this kind of spirit of introspection, and we carry it forward into actual action with respect to how we treat our businesses of economic growth, how we manage our political structures, how we manage our institutions. If we can carry this kind of sobriety, this kind of reflection, introspection into our national life, the business of Nigeria, I think that the country will move beyond where it is today.
Of course.
And the impression, I think that those in government are giving us the impression that they care, they know what is happening. Unlike what happened in the National Assembly, where the President of Senate was issuing prayers.
Almost making mockery of what...
Exactly, issuing prayers. Because any government has to understand the mood of the nation. Issuing prayers to the tune of 2 million
which is why
and everybody seems to know what's happening.
Which is why
the height of insensitivity.
Of course, which is why the rumor of impeachment is flying here and there.
Exactly.
We should really... I'm not a lover of the present administration, but we should be very objective in analysis.
And this should also be extended to the bloated retinue of aides, and then cut down on cost of governance. Because not just declaring. Yes, you should cut down on cost of governance.
Cost of governance. If you want us to make sacrifices, government should make... we kept mentioning about over bloated list of ministers. Now, if ratified by the National Assembly, we'll have 50 ministers, first in the history of the Federal Republic. And we keep crying about money, we keep crying about lack of finance to run the government. We should look inward, like, moments of introspection, rather.
Yes.
Look inwards to see where we can make amends so that the country can move forward.
And without this, I think that the low-key independent anniversary will just be some kind of,
pretentious practice.
Exactly.
That's
charade, as it were, because some kind of charade, and that's not fair to a nation that is bleeding. Well, that's the much we can take. I thank you very much always for coming.
Thank you very
I
much.
told you that when you come to this show, you make it easy. You make it easy.
Thank you very
That's why you're called the radio chief. Well, we're talking about Bill Cosby Jones. My name remains Bon Woke. Stay tuned for other programs of the show, of the station, Atlantic Television. Press Roundtable comes to you live every day, 7 to 8, Monday to Friday. Make sure you join us on Twitter, Atlantic Television Net, Facebook, and YouTube, and Instagram, TikTok, and our website. Make sure you join us on our app and what have you. Don't go away. Stay tuned for other programs of the station as likely. Most importantly, our global round up at 9 p.m. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Make peace your watchword. Peace is not the absence of war. Peace is something that is part of our national life, will be part of our national life. Make every action and utterances of yours a building block of peace. That is how you can get peace, not peace of the graveyard. Stay tuned for that program.
Independence Day is a very historic.